Welcome from Teacher Richard. During this presentation, we're going to be using the SOH TOA and mixed ratios. What that means is we are going to have to decide which ratio fits the particular problem to arrive at a solution. So we're going to take these three triangles and go through each one of them to demonstrate how to select the proper ratio. On this problem here, we have an unknown value, which is an opposite, and we have a given value as a hypotenuse. That tells us that the ratio we use has to have a hypotenuse and an opposite in that ratio. And there's only one ratio that fits that criteria, and that's this ratio right here. We have a hypotenuse and an opposite, and that is the sine ratio. So we are going to use the sine ratio to solve for the unknown value. Now we have an unknown value in the middle here with the underline, and that's the opposite. And the SOH TOA tells us the math solution is to multiply the sine of the given angle times the hypotenuse. And here is our math solution. The opposite value is equal to the sine of the angle times the hypotenuse. The sine of the angle is 0.53164 times 1.250. And the solution, or the answer, is 664,005 And over here we have the keystrokes on my calculator, just as we've done it in the past. And again, I have to mention that we always should remember, when we have a single digit representing minutes and seconds, we should always add a 0 in front of it to the left, so that there's 2 digits for every minute or second entry. So in this case, I've added a 0 in front of the 7. And this is the keystrokes again to accomplish that answer. Now on this problem over here, the unknown value is a hypotenuse, and we're going to use an adjacent to solve for that unknown value. The ratio that has an adjacent and a hypotenuse is right here, and that is the cosine ratio. There is the hypotenuse and there is the adjacent. So the ratio is going to be cosine. And I'm showing the SOH TOA, or the cosine ratio, right here, right in the area of the unknown value, just as I did over here. And SOH TOA tells us that in order to solve for the unknown hypotenuse value, we need to divide the adjacent by the cosine of this angle over here. And this is the math solution. The hypotenuse as an unknown value is equal to the adjacent divided by the cosine of the given angle. Down here, the hypotenuse is equal to the adjacent, which is 1.032, divided by the cosine of the given angle, and that's the cosine right there. And the final answer is 1.246, or 1 inch 246 thousandths, and 0 tenths. And again, these are the keystrokes. And also, you notice that I've added a 0 in front of the 5 minutes and a 0 in front of the 9 seconds. Now we move over to this triangle over here. There's our reference angle, and that reference angle is an unknown value. We're going to be solving for that. And the solution needs to have an adjacent and an opposite in it. So we need to pick a ratio that has both of these items in the ratio, an adjacent and an opposite. And that is the tangent ratio. There's the opposite and there's the adjacent. So that angle that's going to be solved for is going to be a tangent angle. There is our SOH solution, and the solution tells us to divide the opposite value, which is down here, and divide it by the adjacent value over here. And the math solution is the tangent angle is equal to the opposite divided by the adjacent. And down here we enter those values for the opposite and the adjacent. And when we do that division, we end up with the function value of the angle. So this is the tangent function value of that unknown angle. Then we take and we convert that function value to a tangent angle by using these two keystrokes. And in the display of the calculator, we'll see a decimal degree answer. Then we convert that decimal degree answer to degrees, minutes, and seconds by using these two keystrokes. And in the display, we'll see the final answer for the unknown angle as 19 degrees, 23 minutes, and 4 seconds. And these are the keystrokes to accomplish that solution. Now, I should mention here that if you pay attention, you'll notice that we're always working around the function value of an angle. Over here, we took the function value of an angle and multiplied it times the hypotenuse. So this is the function value of that given angle. And that is a sine angle. So that is the sine of that angle times something else. So we're always working with this function value number. Over here, we have an angle, and we are dividing something by something else. And in this case, we're dividing a given value, which is what was the adjacent, and we're dividing it by the function value of a cosine angle. So in both of these problems, we were given an angle, and we're going to use the function value of those angles to do something with it, either multiply it times something or divide something by that function value. And in this case over here, we were going to solve for that angle. So when we do the math with the two given values, and it happens to be a division solution, when we complete that division with the calculator, we end up with this strange looking number here, which is a function value of a tangent angle. And then we go through the conversion process to convert it to decimal degrees and then to degrees, minutes, and seconds. So the point I'm trying to make here is that we're always either working with a function value for a multiplication or division situation, or we're going to use the given values to arrive at that function value and then convert it to the proper degrees, minutes, and seconds format that we want. So maybe instead of going through these convoluted keystrokes over here, maybe it makes more sense for some students when they see an angle on a problem like on these two here. There's a given angle on both of these triangles. You could go in immediately before you do anything. Once you've selected your ratio that you're going to use, and you know that it's either a sine, cosine, or a tangent ratio, then you could solve for the function value or convert this angle to that function value. So you could have taken this angle, knowing that it's a cosine angle, and go to your page 10 that we did as an assignment a few weeks ago and use that same method to convert that angle to a cosine function value. And then you could go and use that cosine function value to do what this tells you to do with it. And in this case, you're dividing the adjacent value by the cosine function value. So that's just an observation or a suggestion. You can either immediately take a given angle, convert it to a function value, and either store it in the memory of your calculator or write it down, or you can follow the keystrokes that I use here. That's about it for this presentation. Good luck with everything, and we'll see you in the classroom.